What do you say, everybody? It's Sunday night, and it's Alabama Crimson Tide. Latest news with me, Mick Gillespie. Great to have you with us tonight, and I'm really excited about this show because, look, we're past the weekend. We had our college football games on Saturday, and that means that Bama's back on the schedule again after last week's postponement against LSU. So this was supposed to be a weekend where Alabama would have highlighted the games being played. We were going to get to see the rematch between Ed Orgeron and those national championship LSU Tigers and the Crimson Tide, and that obviously did not happen because of an outbreak of COVID at LSU. But the good news is, and I guess that's the first point of the five that we're going to talk about, is that it appears they're going to make an announcement really soon that the game is back on. So that is really good news. At least that's what we're hearing right here first. But let me say a couple of things, guys. We really appreciate you here on Bama Insider. BamaInsider.com is the Alabama Rivals site. This is our YouTube page. We do all this stuff for you guys. The one thing that we ask is that you guys just give us a thumbs up. Give us a thumbs up as you watch the show. Also, subscribe to the channel because, look, that's pretty much how we get the word out that we're here and we're doing this thing. And also, any super chats that you want to send our way are greatly appreciated. All right, let's get right into things. Alabama and LSU, and it feels like, it appears like, and I think that maybe even as early as tomorrow, they're going to officially announce that the game is back on. So that is really good news. They're going to have to move some schedules around to make this happen. But Greg Sankey, the SEC commissioner through COVID, has done a fantastic job of trying to figure out ways to get these guys to play. And by the way that he set up the season, and look, I'm not always a cheerleader for commissioners of sports, trust me. But you got to give them credit where credit is due. The SEC backed off the start of the season. Normally, it's that last weekend in August, and they backed off. They went a month back, and then when they set the schedule up, it was disappointing for Alabama because they didn't get a chance to play USC this year, but they did an only SEC schedule. And by doing that, they could control the COVID protocols that would be in place. So by, obviously, by putting those in place, they could say, hey, look, here's what we expect from all of our participating schools, right? That we want to see that you guys do this, this, and this so that we can try to avoid COVID, amongst our players, right? And so give them credit. Until this past weekend, really, COVID hasn't been a major story. Now, we did lose a lot of games to COVID this past weekend, but the SEC, by the way that they set the schedule up with 2 bye weeks, and then also they're looking at that weekend where the SEC championship game would be played. And so for the teams that aren't in the SEC championship game, Commissioner Sankey's saying, hey, we can slide those guys in there. So, for example, the way that I think that the schedule is going to work out is that Bama's going to play the next 2 at home, Kentucky this Saturday, then the Iron Bowl on the 28th. That is the weekend of Thanksgiving. And then on December 5th, instead of playing Arkansas, play LSU, then play Arkansas on December 12th, and then on December 19th, if they make it, they would play in the SEC championship game. So that's what I'm hearing. That's what my sources are telling me. Kyle put a nugget. Of course, Kyle Henderson, our guy here on Bama Insider, put a nugget out that said basically that. And he's been on this story since the very start. So I'm pretty excited about it. I want to see these two teams play. There's a lot of reasons why this game would be good for, not just Alabama and LSU, but for the conference itself. Last year, LSU ended an 8-game losing streak to Alabama. And Ed Orgeron came to the center of the field and basically claimed that, that win. Well, let me play this audio for you because now that it looks like we're going to play this game again eventually, we'll get to keep watching this. It's definitely worth a view if you haven't seen this yet.
Right in the middle of the street. Everybody, go right here in the middle of the damn field. Let's bring it down, Tigers on 3.
Hell yeah!
Because this is our house from now on.
Yes, sir.
Tigers on 3. 1, 2, 3. Tigers!
Yeah, this is our house from now on. Uh, Ed Orgeron, right? So, and look, I mean, maybe it is. I mean, that's why we really need to play this football game. We need to find out if this is really LSU's house. So I'm excited about them being back on the schedule. This year, LSU looks a lot more like Vanderbilt than they do the team that won the national championship last year. They're historically bad. I mean, I'm talking about historically speaking for teams that have won national championships. It's been, I think, over 50 years since a team that won a national championship came back the last season and had a record below 500. That's the possibility. Now, they did lose. I mean, everybody's told us they lost 19 starters. They lost, 31 guys, I guess, from last year's team, whatever it is. Look, Alabama's been number one at one point or another 13 seasons in a row, including right now. We're going to talk about that later on in this show. That's just the way that this business works, right? So if you're going to beat Alabama, like he said in the locker room after the game last year in recruiting, you're going to beat them on the field. And like he said, after he used the phrase roll tide what and then dropped the F-bomb, yet he was talking about beating Alabama every time they see Alabama. So I'm guessing, like, hey, you see him on the street, we're going to beat him there. Like if we see him in the game, we're going to beat him there. So let's see. I'm excited about that. It's the marquee game in the SEC, and it was before Ed Orgeron got there that it became that. It was Les Miles, and then of course Nick Saban when he left LSU. There were a lot of hurt feelings there, and rightly so. I mean, they realized they had the best coach ever. He turned their program around and put them in position to win not just the national championship that he got when he was there, Saban, but also Les Miles and then Ed Orgeron won one last year. Now, did Nick Saban go out and recruit for Ed Orgeron? No, he did it himself and Les Miles, right? But just the fact that before Nick Saban got to LSU, they were a middle of the road or at best type of team. They Jerry DiNardo never really kind of got things going. They didn't have a lot of wins. They were a 7-5, 8-4 type of club. Now, I mean, last year they had one of the best seasons ever. So going back to the point, December 5th, it looks like Alabama's going to play LSU down in Baton Rouge. Nothing official yet, but looking for that to come really soon. So Najee Harris and the guys will be excited about that. All right, one other thing to talk about as far as Alabama is concerned. It has to do with really all the teams in SEC play right now, and that's that we're dealing with a COVID outbreak, right? You look at all of the games that were canceled last week, right? It wasn't just Alabama and LSU. It was Alabama and LSU. It was Texas A&M at Tennessee. It was Georgia and Missouri, and it was Auburn at Mississippi State. So all those schools, in one way or the other, affected by COVID, whether it was their players or the players on the other team who got COVID, or maybe they had a couple of players that had it, and then with the tracing thing that they do, they got to quarantine people just to make sure that they don't get the COVID. So it's a tough situation. According to Kyle Henderson, again here at Bama Insider, there's a mini COVID outbreak, but no marquee players will be affected with that at Alabama. So that's good news, and you hope that the tracing again, the contact tracing is what they call it, won't affect Alabama in any major way. Get those guys out of the way. And then the other thing that we've seen with Coach Nick Saban is that sometimes there are false positives, right? He was supposed to miss the Georgia game, and, come to find out, he failed a test, and then he passed 5 straight tests, and he never got sick. So it's not an exact science, no matter what we want it to be. It's just not. But right now in our country, I mean, look, COVID has definitely reared its ugly head again in a major way. And, I mean, and look, this is the time of year in November and December where you catch colds, So this is obviously an extreme type of sickness, but it's a lot like the flu or the cold or anything else. This is the time of year where people get it. There's a lot of people getting it right now. You just hope that the death rate stays low because the infection rate right now is really high. So anyway, not expecting that to impact Alabama. And then the good news is that they're playing Kentucky this week. Kentucky played last week against Vanderbilt, so they're not dealing with anything right now. I think just as an Alabama family, as Alabama fans, alums, or even just college football fans, you want to see the two teams get together and play. And there was a lot of talk behind the scenes last week of, hey, what if we have another week like this one next week? Could the season be canceled? Will we get through the season? And like many of you, I'm very hopeful that we do get through the season because this is what we look forward to. We look forward to watching college football, and so that's my fingers are crossed. They're going to have to follow a protocol. I feel like Halloween played a factor in this. We all go to Halloween parties, especially when you're a college age kid. So, I'm wondering if maybe, around the country, not just in Tuscaloosa, but around the country, if kids, slid off the Halloween parties, and contracted it. But the good news is that when you're young like them, you have a better chance of dying from a lightning strike than getting COVID. Now, when you start to get up in years or you have pre-existing conditions, this is really bad. So, you got to be careful about where you go and who you're around. And a lot of the coaches are older, just think about it from that aspect. It's a really dangerous disease. So fingers are crossed on that aspect. The third point that we're going to talk about today is one that a lot of you guys are paying close attention to, and that is the Heisman odds. Who is going to win the Heisman Trophy this year? And, we all at Alabama feel like, Mac Jones should be a guy that would be at the top of that list. And let me throw that up there for you. Here are the latest Heisman odds, right? The latest Heisman odds. Justin Fields, Mac Jones, Trevor Lawrence, and Kyle Trask. And I said Justin Fields a second ago. I meant Mac Jones. We all expected Alabama that it's Mac Jones, right? The way that he's played, he has played himself in this mix. In this mix, guys. And, you got to give this kid a lot of credit because, when you saw what he looked like last year coming in for Tua against Tennessee and then building up in the loss against Auburn, although they did have a lot of luck in that game, he still threw 2 pick sixes. Could you have ever imagined that he was going to come out and absolutely tear things up like he has this year? But Mac has put himself in position not only to win the Heisman, but also to be drafted right now. I think I heard Mel Kiper say that he's looking at him as a late to mid first round pick. Mel Kiper, knows his football. He's a draft expert. He's been doing it a long time. And I didn't expect that at this point. I really didn't, but good for him and really good for Alabama to see that they've got another player that has odds. 5-2 odds pretty much tells you that list of players that you're looking at on your screen right now all have the same odds to possibly get there, right? And what's really incredible is that Mac has put himself in that spot, but at the same time that these other guys, and here's another slide on it, have also hung in there as well. Not just every one of these guys, but coming into the season, I want to say that it was probably Trevor Lawrence, and I'm going to put these two guys up, and Justin Fields as the two frontrunners for the Heisman Trophy. And here's their stats right now. Trevor Lawrence, he's had to deal with the same issues that Alabama did, right? Except he had COVID, so he missed 2 games, but he's 135 and 191 on the year. Look at it, 17 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He's put up fantastic stats. The kid can play football, no doubt about it. He's been great since he was a freshman. And, Clemson has one of the best players they're ever going to have right now behind center when he's there. Justin Fields is the other guy. He was at Georgia. I mean, look at this. In 3 games, this guy's completed 72 of 83 passes. I mean, that's like video game numbers, 86%. Now, the thing that hurts Justin Fields is that they haven't played enough games. And I think that's part of the problem that the Big Ten has as well, because they haven't played as many games. There's less chance for an opportunity. Kyle Trask is in this conversation, and that's because everyone else was off because of COVID. And he had a great game yesterday for Florida when they took on Arkansas. So let me slide this down for you. There's Kyle Trask, who, as I mentioned a second ago, is the Gators quarterback. Florida kind of known for having Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, including Tim Tebow and Steve Spurrier, two legends. But Trask yesterday had, just a ton of touchdowns and, really led his team. He's at 71%, but I think Mac has as good a chance as anybody. And it's important for Alabama to play these games because Mac Jones needs to be on that big stage. And that's why I feel like LSU, the Iron Bowl, the SEC championship game, all these are big opportunities. And who knows, it could come down to Kyle Trask and Mac Jones, depending on how everything, kind of plays itself out. I mean, but wouldn't that be something if, it came down to those two guys and, they played in the SEC title game. And here's a comment from Julio, and he's like, hey, Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence are playing inferior competition, and I agree. I mean, I think that's the thing that helps you when you're in the SEC. When you put up those numbers against some of the teams that you play in the SEC, it's a big deal. And so, the fact that Alabama has some more big games on the schedule. They already played Texas A&M. They already played Georgia and beat them. Mac Jones was excellent in both of those games. I think that really helps them kind of build momentum for their quarterback. And the other guy, too, about Najee Harris. I mean, we're not talking about him, and that's because the odds aren't with him like they are Mac Jones, which it seems like a quarterback award on this list. But he's a guy that could have a Heisman moment and shoot right past. Right now, the way that the Heisman Trophy works, anyone can kind of have that moment where they just jump out in front of everyone else and steal the award. So, I guess we're all hoping that, for Alabama, that this is something that they're able to do here with Mac Jones or Najee Harris. However it goes, it would be awesome to see the Crimson Tide with another Heisman Trophy winner. So far tonight, we talked about Alabama and LSU being back on track. It looks like that game will be rescheduled for December 5th at LSU. Bama with a mini COVID outbreak, mini as in very small, no marquee players. It shouldn't affect the team at all. We just got into our third point, Heisman odds, Justin Fields, Trevor Lawrence, Kyle Trask, and, of course, our guy Mac Jones, all there at 5-2 odds. So they're all even for the award. Give me a thumbs up, guys. If you appreciate the show, hanging out here on a Sunday night, give me one of these right here. Give me a thumbs up. Also, subscribe to the channel. You're watching BamaInsider.com, and we appreciate it. This is the Alabama rival site, and it's really great to have you guys on here with me tonight. I'm going to do this every Sunday. All right. Our fourth point that we're going to get into has to do with a brand new top 25 poll. So remember, last poll, Alabama, thanks to Notre Dame's win over the Clemson Tigers, took over the top spot. And now let me put it up here. Alabama is back at number 1 again. And I'm going to try to enlarge this so you guys can see it a little bit better. But 57 in the coaches' poll of the number 1 votes for the Crimson Tide. You got 60 in the AP top 25. Alabama getting a lot of credit. I'm not sure that Nick Saban really likes when they get this much credit, because I think that he loves to use it as a motivator, that you're not getting respect not getting respect, guys. You got to go out there and earn it. Even though for the last 13 years, Bama has been numero uno at some point in the season, man. So look at that right there. 57 top votes for Alabama. Notre Dame took care of Boston College. I think if we were betting on the show this week, I might have taken Boston College in the points. That's kind of what I would have done, but Notre Dame looked good. As I take a look at some of the comments, JL says, "What's up, Mick? I'm late. Finally got the carpet up from Sally Flood." Look, Jay, I know what you're talking about, man. We're still trying to get the trees up from Sally here in Fairhope. So thanks for joining us. Tom talking about the Mac attack. That's right, trying to get that Heisman trophy. And, reminding you guys that we really appreciate you being part of our show. All right, Ohio State was supposed to play Maryland and Tungavailoa. That was a football game that I was really excited about seeing, right? But that game was canceled. So Ohio State's chances of playing in enough games to qualify for awards and also the college football playoff is dwindling as they miss games. But right now, they're definitely a solid number 3. Clemson with the one loss is number 4. And then what I wanted to pay attention to is the 5, 6, and 7 spots, which really haven't changed in the AP and in the coaches poll. The coaches, they put Florida ahead of Texas A&M in their poll for 5 and 6. I don't agree with that because Texas A&M beat Florida. I don't even know if the coaches really fill out their paperwork. I mean, because you can coach football doesn't always mean that you have a lot of sense in your head. And I look at this and I say they have the exact same record. Texas A&M lost to number 1 Alabama, and Florida lost to Texas A&M. So that to me means Texas A&M should be 5 and Florida should be 6, plain and simple. But for some reason, the coaches have it one way, and the AP has it another, and so whatever. Cincinnati, another win for the Bearcats. They're number 7. The problem Cincinnati has is that they don't play enough good competition. I don't think that they're going to be able to get much closer to the 4 to make a playoff spot than where they're at right now. And I think that a lot of that just comes down to the fact that they don't play a great schedule. So that's where we are right now. And again, Alabama number 1. Now, ESPN released something that is, you guys would call rat poison, right? And I would call it rat poison as well. And what we're talking about here is ESPN's list of teams' playoff chances. And I think that's something that we love to do at this day and age now, is we let the computers tell us what a person's chances are of achieving something. We say, well, you know what, Mick's got a 100% chance of doing this or 95% chance of doing this. I hope that I have a 100% chance to get you guys to give us a thumbs up here on Bama Insider and subscribe to the channel. That's one of the important things about what we're doing. But anyway, look, here's what I was talking about. The playoff chances. Alabama's playoff chances right now are at 89%. That is absolutely rat poison. This is the stuff that Nick Saban hates. This is the stuff that really bothers Nick Saban, because his job is to motivate these guys to go out there and play Kentucky, to play Auburn, to play LSU, Arkansas, and then what could be an epic battle against an upstart Florida team who I watched on Saturday that looks like they could really beat anyone. And it's hard to do that when you look at a list here from ESPN that says that you have an 89% chance of getting into the playoff. But with that said, I agree. I think if Alabama loses, they win out and they lose to Florida in the SEC championship game, I still think they get in. I mean, depending on how the loss went. And normally when Alabama loses, it's a good game and, something went wrong and boom, they ended up losing the game. But Jolito says Alabama just has to get to the SEC championship game undefeated. Yeah, I agree. The problem I have with that, though, is that there are a bunch of Alabama haters that are amongst the field of people that pick these teams. And they would like nothing better than to say, hey, guys, you lost the SEC championship game. We're going to put Cincinnati in this year. Like, believe it, okay? So not everyone appreciates a program that has been number one for 13 straight years, okay? But let's take a look at the rest of the field. Ohio State at 61%, and I think a lot of that has to do with them completing their season and playing enough games. Wisconsin's missed a couple of games because of COVID, but they came out and they blistered Michigan, a program right now with Jim Harbaugh that is sinking faster than quicksand. You got Notre Dame at 49%. What's crazy about Notre Dame is that they're ranked second in the country right now, and they're still gleaming over beating Clemson, but they'd have to play Clemson again, and that probably won't bode well for them. Clemson at 43%. You got Oregon. How about BYU at 25%? BYU's got some quality wins in there. Florida at 18%, because if they lose to Alabama twice, it's going to be hard to get in there. Cincinnati and Texas A&M. I'm surprised that Texas A&M only gets 7% because they went out and things. I think it would be, perfect for them to do we didn't have to play in the SEC title game thing, but we're 9-1, and here we are. The one of the best teams in the country. Slide us in there. So, here's a comment from Parker. Is it possible for Alabama to lose the SEC title game and still get into the playoff if we run the table in the regular season and going undefeated? That's what I'm talking about now. I think there is a good chance, and that's what this is saying. I think this is a combination of Alabama's not going to lose any games, and if they do, they still have a chance to get in. So that's, I guess, for Nick Saban, par for the course, right? So that sets us up for Alabama playing football again this Saturday, and I'm telling you, man, I'm excited. Look, having a week off, it's been so boring. It's like you watch football and you're waiting for to watch Alabama play. And Alabama has become that program that we all watch, whether you're on this site or not. But because they've become kind of the face of college football, they've become like America's team, because they've won so many championships. People, they like Nick Saban, and in America, people like a winner. That's just whether you're talking about the Dallas Cowboys from the 70s, maybe the Patriots right now. People just, they gravitate to a winner, and I think that's the situation as Alabama will play against Kentucky this week. So some details on this game. Kentucky's 3-4, Bama's 6-0. The game is at 3 o'clock on the SEC Network. Bama's a 29.5-point favorite in Tuscaloosa. Kentucky coming off of a 38-35 win. They beat Vanderbilt, so good win for them. Vandy really needed this game because Vanderbilt has not won a conference game yet. But I got to give Mike Stoops and his coaching staff a lot of credit because these guys fight so hard. They're a lot like Arkansas, where they're not going to give you an easy game. They're gonna fight you really hard. Then they had a tough loss. Kentucky lost offensive line coach John Schlarman to cancer earlier this week. So thoughts and prayers are with him, with the entire Kentucky family. And, it's just so tough. There's life outside of sports. We get into sports. We love what we're doing. We talk about it all the time. But, sometimes the real world jumps in there and you realize, once you walk off the field, we're all just humans. So thoughts and prayers to Kentucky and the family of John Schlarman and their loss. But they'll be in town this Saturday to play Alabama. Fingers crossed we don't have any issues with COVID and we play football. All right, guys, look, again, appreciate you being with us here tonight. Make sure you give a thumbs up, Bama Insider, the YouTube channel. Make sure you subscribe if you're not a subscriber yet. We'll be back next Sunday. We got Monday Night Quarterback tomorrow, 6 o'clock. We'll have the incomparable Kyle Henderson. We'll have our star intern, Trey Yanity. We'll have the magnificent beat writer himself, Tony Sukalis and myself tomorrow at 6 o'clock. And stay tuned for our channel throughout the day if any news breaks, including the official word that Alabama and LSU are back on the schedule. We'll be there with the story.